things we say is intend to connect, not correct.
Yes.
That that we're so often wanting to be right.
Yes.
If you think about how often we want to do, even in little things, we want to be right. And often that's at the expense of the relationship. Because if we're right, then somebody else is wrong.
Yes. The process for learning heartful communication, is it taught through a course? Because it sounds like it's a very profound thing, and there must be an experiential element to it too.
Oh, completely, yeah. We teach a program, and people can come and either do it in person or mostly online these days. After COVID, everything kind of went online. And then having done a program, which is about 28 hours as the initial program, and people join practice groups and start practicing, and then hopefully a lot of people become facilitators in time. So because Daji, our spiritual guide here who initiated the program, he wants this everywhere. In fact, he said, what did he say? I hope and pray that one day Heartful Communication may become a most sought after program in the world. I mean, that's quite a big statement.
Yes.
So he very much, he really supports this because if I understand it accurately, what he sees is that for many of us, absolutely including myself, there's a gap between our inner condition that we're given through meditation, this with heartfulness, meditation with transmission, with pranahuti. Those conditions that we're given inside, and the gap between that and our outer behavior, like that example I gave you, that story that I gave you, and I think whenever I've told that story, I see all these heads in the group going,
yeah.
People recognize that there is this gap for many of us between our aspirations of how we really, really want to be in our lives, with our loved ones, with everybody, and what actually happens because of our samskaras, our conditioning, the patterns that are so deep within us. So to find a means whereby you can combine a very, very powerful, transformative spiritual practice, as heartfulness is, with its cleaning, its transmission, that where people really do change. And, I can see some of my, most horrible patterns have lightened, they're changing. When you combine that with a very practical, grounded approach of how to actually do this, so that we're able to support people to learn how to listen for what's in the heart of somebody else, how to speak holding an intention not to hurt. Lalaji, one of our great teachers in heartfulness, he said, it's like to intend not to hurt anybody's heart in the least. And we have to work with that every day, really, So, but when you have that intention and you're sincerely trying to, that's what's required, is the sincerity.
Yes.
Knowing that you're going to fall down, knowing you're going to trip up, knowing the same pattern is going to reassert itself, because these things are really embedded, hard to change. And that sincerity of, okay, I'll have another go.
Yes.
And actually Daji said, see if I can remember the words, he said that the impact of heartful communication goes far beyond communication itself.
Yes.
And is having an enormous benefit on people's overall spiritual condition, and here's the lovely thing, and on their overall happiness.
Yes.
And when, people are really sincerely working with this is the feedback they give us.
Yes.
That they are happier, they are more peaceful, because they have a reliable process, one that's reliable under pressure. See, it's not a problem, is it, when everybody's,
calm and peaceful
and being nice and whatnot. It's not a problem. it becomes challenging in a hostile environment. And then you need something where you have, you've got something which is reliable because you've worked with it, you've practiced it, and you're holding on to this intention for connection, not to win. In fact, one of the things we say is intend to connect, not correct.
Yes.
That, that we're so often wanting to be right.
Yes.
If you think about how often we want to do, even in little things, we want to be right, and often that's at the expense of the relationship. Because if we're right, then somebody else is wrong.
Yes.
If we win, so-called, somebody else is losing. So actually, you're not winning anything. So Charji used to talk so much about how much it was more helpful to be wrong than to be right. It's not easy to do, but actually, it is my experience that there is a sweetness in being wrong. There's a softness in being wrong. I can't always manage it, because my patterns for wanting to be right and to do things in a certain way, they're very strong.
I've always found there's a sort of freedom in humility. And if you don't have the humility naturally, there's a freedom in being humiliated in a sense.
Yes. I mean, it's great, isn't it? If your ego takes a bashing, hooray, bring it on.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised it makes people happy because, would I be right in understanding that it's so profound that what it's actually doing is taking the condition that we get during meditation and actually teaching us what to do with it to manifest it in the best possible way in the world.
Yeah, I like the way you've put that in a nutshell. Yeah, it is like that.
And how did you get involved? You told us about how you got involved in nonviolent communication. How did it come about that came into heartfulness and became Heartful Communication?
Oh, okay. Well, 4 years ago, I was just visiting here, Kana Shantivanam, this ashram, for a spiritual renewal time, of 2 or 3 weeks over the new year. At that time, I was living in Scotland, back in Edinburgh, having previously spent 10 years, by the way, living in Chennai, working voluntarily in a big school there, called Omega School. And then Darji had guided me to go to finish there and to go back and work in the UK. So I very innocently, came here for a nice spiritual retreat. And when I met Darji, on his table, as far as I recall, was this book, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. And I was surprised that he knew about it. He also knew that I am a qualified trainer in that process. And essentially, he talked about this split, between our behavior and what's happening inside spiritually. And he asked me to start teaching nonviolent communication here and to shift here.
Okay.
So I thought, that's a surprise.
Big change.
Big change, yes.
From nonviolent communication to heartful communication, how was heartfulness sort of infused into it and sort of how is it made into its own thing?
Well, Darji chose the term,
okay,
heartful communication. And it was, how could you say, it was very clear that when you're starting to teach something within an existing system, which has its own, so profound teachings, it's like, how could you keep it separate?
Yes.
So with Darji's guidance and also our own sense of wanting to make sure that this was an integrated approach, we wove in the teachings and practices of heartfulness, and that's increasing all the time.